And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus 105 in the afternoon on this Thursday, June 27th. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And along with me, meteorologist Justin Storm and our wonderful, talented Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, doing well, Dean.
All right. And Bridgette?
Yep, been out in the field already this morning. Wind is starting to come up just a little bit, but people were very busy. I saw planes putting on fungicide. There's some soybeans that are getting sprayed where it's not too terribly wet. So it's been a busy and productive day so far.
Yeah, there's some showers on radar right now. Stretching generally around the Jamestown area, down through Lisbon, and into southwestern or west central Minnesota. All that moving kind of east-northeastward. And we'll see more of these showers. A few embedded rumbles of thunder possible as well. They'll be continuing to move to the northeast and becoming a little more widespread as we head throughout the afternoon. So more rain is in the forecast, guys.
Nothing new there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but tell me how much. Are we getting a lot? We're not getting quite as much because people...
All of it, Bridgette.
People downstream of all of this are getting a little...
nervous
about what's all going on. Yeah,
no kidding. Half inch area wide, I'd say. Some spots could get a little bit more, but so nothing terribly heavy, nothing that we can't handle up here.
Our lawns need
You're feeling a little dry up there in Grand Forks.
Yeah, a little dry. Yeah.
Okay. I'm still feeling rather. It's a little damp right here yet, but it's not bad. We're getting into fields. One of the sprayers I was in this morning, it got soft and nobody got stuck. So that's a win.
That is. Yeah, I don't know about the farm fields up here. I suppose I could ask around a couple of my buddies on how they're doing. But everywhere, in town, it's all getting a little dry. The ground's starting to get hard. At least the first couple inches of the topsoil is getting hard.
All right, let's see where it goes from here, because we've said that this year is going to be a land of extremes. And honestly, in a lot of cases, it's not been overly warm yet. Folks are looking for a few more heat units for some of their crop as well. So what's on deck for the next few days, gentlemen?
Well, let's see. I've got happy hour tonight, and then tomorrow, probably going to try and get around to golfing after work.
Yeah, I got some shutters that need to be spray painted, and I got to finish creating my flower boxes. So that's what's in what I got planned.
How about you, Bridgette?
What are your plans? What's on deck?
If we're just running down our to-do list, I'm actually going to go flag a water hemp and a kochia plant, and I'm going to spray paint them, and then see how much growth I have in 24 hours, 3 days, 5 days, and 10 days. So look at me be all scientific.
Cool. Look at you.
Well, we do have some. I tell you, we got everything from fall weather to finally a look at some more summer-like weather that is in the forecast. In fact, as we head into the rest of the afternoon, we are looking at scattered showers becoming a little more prevalent, and again, could mix in a rumble of thunder. We're in the low 70s right now. That's about where we're going to stay. Some of the areas that are getting some of the steadier rain out around the Jamestown area probably falling off into the upper 60s as we head throughout the day. And then a few showers and storms overnight tonight, low to mid 60s. Friday, I do think we'll see a break for some sunshine as winds turn to the west, with highs in right around that 80-degree range. And then another round of showers comes in Friday night. And then Saturday, it's going to feel like fall. Upper 60s, a little breeze out of the north, 10 to 20, a lot of clouds around. And then Sunday, pick day of the weekend, Sunday looking absolutely ideal. With a lot of sunshine, winds will turn to the south in the afternoon. Highs in the upper 70s, and then low to mid 80s on Monday, but another chance of storms comes into the area. And then looks like we're kind of stuck in the 70s for Tuesday and Wednesday. I do see us warming up around the 5th. So it looks like the 4th of July might be a little iffy right now. It's still a week away. I'm sure the forecast will change a little bit between now and then, but it does look like we're getting some signs that weekend, the 4th of July weekend, should start to warm up with more summer-like temperatures. How warm we actually get, We'll fine tune that next week, but at least there's, if you're a fan of the summer heat, and a lot of people want that weekend hot. I mean, it's lakes weekend, it's pool weekend, it's everybody's off, 4-day weekend, whatever. It's finally we're gonna start to see things.
4-day weekend.
What are you taking more than that? Thursday,
No,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I have 2 days, Saturday and Sunday.
You got Friday off.
Well, I guess I do have Friday, but I'm working anyways.
Oh, you're not on Friday?
Not here. But I got to do other stuff.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm taking the day off from here, but I have other stuff I have to go do on Friday.
Oh.
So just 2 days for me.
Well, head out to the lake. Enjoy it.
If it doesn't rain.
It'll be 90 to 100, sunny.
It's too hot. Too hot for me. I'm staying home then. You just made my plans for me, Dean. That's too hot.
There you go.
Yeah, this whole average, a couple degrees either side of like 80, that's been just fine with me.
You're
I know Bridgette's in the same boat.
No, yeah. Bring the heat.
Pretty much.
Bring on the heat. Especially for
you gotta go back to Nebraska, Dean.
No, well, was too hot.
We ain't used to that kind of heat up here.
They got 115 degree heat index readings down there. That's okay. They can have that.
Is that too hot?
It's too humid. If it's 100,
so 100 is fine.
If it's 115 in Phoenix, that's a dry heat. There's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a dry heat.
Yeah,
well, we get dry colds.
We do. We get plenty of dry colds.
Right.
We get very dry cold.
That's the one I'm sticking with.
Different.
Oh man. Well, let's hit on some ag topics. Bridget, we'll let you choose since it's Thursday.
Since they're mine?
Yeah, that too.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure if folks are aware of this, but in humans, amniotic fluid, that would be the fluid that surrounds the baby in womb, actually gets used as a resource to promote healing for burn victims, or if there maybe is a wound that has to heal. Well, now some researchers actually in Bozeman, Montana have figured out that they can take the amniotic fluid from a cow and be able to use that in veterinary clinics as well as zoos for sort of the same thing. They can use that in case of burns. They can also use that when it comes to having done surgery to try to help heal the wounds. What they actually do is take the amniotic fluid. They will then either pour over or inject near the wound, and so that helps to promote healing. Actually, when babies have surgery in utero, due to the amniotic fluid, there's never any scarring. And so this is one way to try to help out animals to heal better. And when you heal better and faster, you have less chance of infection. And so this is going as an opportunity for folks to use, again, with your in veterinary clinics or in zoos. And so something I hadn't even thought about. And also a little fun fact, the human body can produce 200 to 300 milliliters of amniotic fluid. A cow, 2,000 to 3,000 milliliters. So there's some difference in size of womb and live birth, you might say, because calves, 90 pounds, a little different than a baby.
And what is that in gallons?
Somebody do the math, because remember, I came for this to talk farming, not to do math.
All right, so let's say 2,500, right between 2,000 and 3,000.
Yeah, use that.
Oh, it's a points. Just shy of 0.7 gallons.
It's a lot of fluid.
That's a good amount.
Kind of a neat deal, though, if you can use that to help. I mean, think about that. Sometimes animals get severely injured, and this might be a way to be able to use another resource that's very healthy for them. So why not do it?
Very interesting. And you said that doesn't cause the scarring when they have like a surgery or a wound inside that fluid?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So like human babies, sometimes you'll hear about babies having open heart surgery and so forth. They are born without the scarring because of the healing properties of the amniotic fluid. There's something in the fluid that is called cytokines. I don't think I'm saying that right. Someone probably knows.
Nope, you got it.
But it's a growth factor that helps to promote the healing. So it's really kind of a cool concept. And the company in Bozeman that's looking at doing this also just got some grants from their State Department of Ag to help to develop their business just a little bit further. So one more way for veterinarians to be just as high tech as anybody else.
That's great. Now, Bridget, one of our fantastic and obviously astute listeners sent us an email regarding there's something going on with the world's first carbon tax on livestock. It's supposedly going to cost farmers $100 per cow. How is this going to pass?
Okay, so that was in Finland, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have this story in queue to bring up here in the next couple of weeks because here's the thing, when stuff like that gets announced, it's sort of like the National Enquirer version. So I always like to wait just a little bit until we get some soundness behind it, something that's maybe pretty reputable too. How will it pass? Well, first of all, some countries are just going to make that mandate and they're not going to give input. That likely would not happen here in the US because so many things along those lines are open to comment period. If in fact this is something that would try to be pushed down on the American livestock producer, particularly in the beef realm, you would see outcry from multiple organizations, whether it's US stock growers, RCAF USA, or Stockman's Association, or National Cattlemen's Association. That would be at the national level. Your state levels would also raise a ruckus over the whole thing. I also think that you would start to see much more discussion as to the science and the viability of it happening. It's not just going to be blindly done.
Right.
And especially because you think of the size of our herds versus what you would see in most European farms. It's pretty different.
It'll be interesting to see if they pass that in Canada. Can you imagine QDM going off the rails on that if they pass something like that up north?
I think he has some commentary. And for those who don't know who QDM is, he is a past guest of ours. We actually had him live with us at Big Iron last fall, and that is Quick Dick McDick. He is on YouTube and many other social media platforms. He's a farmer who also has a background having worked in the oil industry, in Saskatchewan, and has much to share and for some pretty good insights about what really happens in Canada when it comes to some of their taxation and government level decisions, I guess you could call it.
Right.
So we'll see what he has to say.
No doubt. No doubt. We have a special guest. What? Go ahead.
Go. I was going to say, you've been busting out your tinfoil hat on that at all?
Well, that along with the chemtrails too. I'm deciding which one that's more viable. Not sure yet. I think
the cow one would be more viable.
We'll get Bridgette a tinfoil hat. She needs one.
She can at least hold it.
Yeah, maybe, but she's going to roll her eyes a lot. So
yeah, I mean, you could just entertain it for like a minute.
Not even that long. So okay, we do have a guest with us today, and I think we might have two. I think we have both of the Brobergs with us, Brent and Lauren. They are from Nebraska. They have organic worms. And that's just the short version. I think there's a whole lot more to it than that. And I'm very interested to hear how they got into the business and what they do to bring around a natural fertilizer. With all of the Green Deal discussions going on when it comes to fertilization, there's even a company out of Minnesota called Sustain. They're doing a product that ships worldwide using chicken litter that gets pelletized. I want to see how that differs versus what's going on with worms and so much more. So stay tuned. We're going to talk all about worms coming up next. And welcome back. So glad that you're here with us this afternoon. Dean and Justin and I are happy to share all of the headlines and the weather that we've got that are going on in weather and ag today. And a big thank you to a couple of our Here We Grow sponsors. They've been outstanding in the work that they do. One of them is Gowan Company. They brought a Fiance fungicide to the field for us to prevent any and all, well, I shouldn't say all, but a big majority of disease problems that we might be having with all the weather that's been going on. We've been damp, we've been cool and cloudy, and Fiance brings two modes of action to the table for us to help prevent disease problems in our cornfield. And in fact, our video with Gowan will be coming up very, very soon on our YouTube channel. Watch for that later this week. Also, Red River Retention Authority, and they have their upcoming partner summit. That'll be on July 31st in East Grand Forks, Minnesota. It's featuring former Minnesota Representative Colin Peterson. I'm planning on being there. I hope many of you are as well. So if you get the opportunity, please stop and say hi at that conference. I'm looking forward to visiting with folks. So today we should have room for lots of questions because I have them and I hope the rest of you do too. And if you do, you can reach us on the Red Wing Shoe phone line, 701-293-9000. Again, that's the Red Wing Shoe line or phone line, as you might want to call it. Our guests today are calling us from Nebraska, hopefully not the very wet part of Nebraska. And we are visiting with Brent and Mary Kay Broberg. Folks, how are things in your part of the world today?
Good. We got a little overcast sky. It's cooler today, but the sun's starting to peek out. We've had really good rains, just about perfect. Kind of feel bad for some of the people up north of us in Sioux City and Sioux Falls. We haven't had anything like that, but we've got grass like we've never had before, and we've got water in dams that we've never had for years, and we're really counting our blessings right now.
Oh, we're so happy to hear that. For a farmer to say we've had kind of perfect conditions, that's worth applause. That's awesome.
Yeah. 1 out of every 10 years, maybe.
So tell us a little bit about where you are and maybe what your farm operation looks like that led you to the worm farm, because now we want to know more.
Yeah, like you said, we're in Nebraska, and speaking of that, I'm kind of jealous. You've got your bison paraphernalia hanging out in the back. I should have done this. I should have done this in my Husker room. So
there you go. Go Big Red.
We could have had the red ends hanging up and things like that. But no, this is my wife, Mary Kay, like you said, and we've been married 21 years. After college, we met in college. I actually played basketball and she played volleyball at Concordia University in Seward, Nebraska. And that's where we met. And I came back to the farm. She came with me. And I've got one younger sister, and then my mom and my dad. And my sister lives in Nashville, Tennessee with her husband and 2 little girls. And so when I came back to the farm, I had already been in agriculture my whole life. My dad and I we own Broberg Charlet. We've got 300 cows, a purebred Charlet herd. We have a production bull sale the second week in February every year. And so I really, really enjoy that and put a lot of focus and hard work into that. My dad's raised hogs since 1977, and I got a nursery and finisher, and we feed part of those hogs, and those are marketed as roaster hogs out to California. And then I also farm. We got corn, soybeans. Once in a while, when it's doable, we'll do some alfalfa. But my dad farms with his 2 brothers, my 2 uncles, and then we kind of help each other back and forth with that. And they've been really supportive of me and helped me get started 20 years ago. And so, we've just, like I said at the beginning, the Lord's really blessed us, and we lean on him for everything we do. He's first and foremost in our lives, and he's led us down some different paths, including the worm castings business, which is something that we kind of started looking into about 10 years ago with the hog buildings. I was looking for something that you could use old hog buildings for, because hog buildings don't last forever. And Mary Kay's mom actually gave me an article on worm farming. And of course, like anybody else, I was thinking about selling bait, and so have some side money. But once I started looking into
about that,
it,
actually.
What's that?
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you later on. Are we using this for bait? But we'll get to that, and why or why not.
Okay. So anyway, so we got into the worm casting business, and and it's been a real learning experience, but a fun one. We've met a ton of really good people along the way, and we've got to work together more than probably we ever thought we would, side by side. And so it just kind of slowly grew, and like I said, with a lot of prayer, we moved on, and we've learned a lot. So
Okay, let's just start with a number of things here because I keep writing questions down. I want to go back to something that you said, though, about the hogs before we start talking about worms. You
that's fine.
used the term roaster hog selling back to California. Can you
Mhm.
explain that? Because I'm not, I kind of know livestock, not necessarily very much for hogs. What's a roaster
Okay.
hog? I'm envisioning something turning on a spit here.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So, the hog business, it was get big or get out. And at one point, we had 750 sows, and that sounds big, but it really wasn't. And so we started looking for some alternative markets, and found this market out in Northern California. And basically, what it is, you grow those pigs up to about 100, 110 pounds, and then you ship them at that weight rather than the 280, 300-pound fat hog traditionally that they have now. And I will tell you, moving 100-pound pigs is lots easier on a guy's knees than a 280-pound fat hog.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Okay. So as you saw this transition, like you said, you read an article, you had the barns. How do you start turning over the barn for a worm casting production? What do you need to make as far as changes in that facility?
Okay, so when I first started, there was a company in Wisconsin that kind of got us started. We went up there and toured their facility, and they would help you get started, and they would buy your castings. Castings is worm manure. That's what we sell. And so they would buy those back from you. But after a while, we kind of got to looking, and it just wasn't going to be feasible. So we decided if we were going to do it, we're going to have to do it ourselves and market it ourselves here. So I actually started with a small little farrowing house out at my mom and dad's place that wasn't being used anymore. I tore all the crates out and basically stripped it all down. And to raise the worms that we have are African night crawlers. And so, unlike your regular worms that you dig up in the ground, these worms can take the heat. You don't have to keep them cool, and that's what's kind of unique about them is they can take the heat all the way up to 85, 90 degrees, and it doesn't bother them. And so you don't have to keep them cool. So we went and we purchased, I think at that time they came in 2.5 gallon pails, about so big, and there was 275 worms in every pail. We got 28 pails worth, and we had to make sure the room was heated, and we had to get the right bedding for the worms and make sure it had the right moisture and the right temperature, and get the ventilation right. And so it was kind of interesting because in the hog industry there's a lot of stuff about ventilation, and some of it kind of crossed over a little bit with your insulation, your ventilation, and temperature and all that. So that wasn't as big a learning curve as just learning what a worm likes and how to treat them, keep them alive.
So, question question for you, Brent. You said the castings are actually the manure, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. This is the first thing that came to my mind. How are you separating that? How are you to
Yep.
be that seems difficult.
Yeah, that's the first question I usually get. And so, just to kind of tell you the process, so our worms are, we bed them basically, or feed them black peat moss, and we get that out of a bog actually in Iowa, and it's got to be the right temperature, the right moisture, and everything. And so then those worms are in that peat moss for 14 days, and we've got a special feed we put with the peat moss, and we run it through a pulverizer, and it fluffs it up and keeps it easy for the worms to eat. And so those worms are now in big boxes, and there's about 6,600 worms in every box, and they're in there for 14 days. And after 14 days, they've turned that whole box, or 98% of it, into worm castings. And so the boxes actually have a hinge on the end of them, so when you tip them, it'll open. And so we'll put that up on a tip table, and it tips, and all the worms, castings, the whole 9 yards, slides out into a hopper, and it's conveyed up into a big piece of equipment called a trommel. And basically what a trommel is kind of like a seed cleaner. It's got different size screens on it, and it's tilted just slightly. So, and it turns. And so as it turns, the castings go through one size screen and they fall down to the conveyor underneath that takes them up, puts them in our big super sacks. And while the worms are in those boxes, they also lay eggs. And so there's another size screen that separates the eggs because they're a different size. And then the worms themselves come out the end of the trommel, and we collect them and put them in a brand new box of black peat, and they go back into their room for 14 days, and then there you have it.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's a very
Okay.
interesting process.
Yeah.
Okay, we
It's
got
really
tons of
pretty
questions, and
easy. It sounds more difficult than it is, but if you see it, it's not. But all the equipment you have to have. It's not like you can run down to, Agco and grab parts for a trommel, or
Yeah.
we've got a
Right.
dirt mixer, and we've got a pulverizer, several conveyors. You have a scale under your big super sack because you want to weigh it, make sure it's the right weight, and then you got to be able to
Right.
handle. Our sacks are a ton a piece, and you've got to be able to handle those. So you got a forklift and a place to store everything, and on top of that, your peat moss has to be the right temperature and the right moisture. So I've had a lot of people call and want to get into the worm business. They think it's just a get rich quick deal, and I tell them, I said, I don't want to try to tell you not to, but it's way more work than what you think.
Okay, Brent,
Wow.
we're gonna have a pile of questions here. I mean, I've sorted
That's
cows
fine.
before,
I've
but
had
this
them all.
worm thing's a new deal. But before we do that, we've got to hit bottom of the hour news. So when we come back, we'll continue with our list of questions that we've got for you guys, as well as any listeners who want to reach out at 701-293-9000, the Red Wing Shoe line. Stick around. More discussions about worm castings, or as Dean typed to me, worm poop. We'll be doing that just shortly.
Yep.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks for rejoining us where we left off. We were having a conversation with Mary Kay and Brent Broberg from Broberg Organic Worm Farm out of Nebraska. And if you have any questions, you want to join in the conversation, feel free to do so. Give us a call at 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoe phone line. Or you can use email, weather or ag at flagfamily.com in those comment boxes on Facebook and YouTube Live. Mary Kay, I was kind of wondering, what's been your experience with this? What was the transition and the learning curve like for you starting to farm worms?
Well, I swore I would never marry a farmer, so my whole life has been an adventure for the last 20 years. But I do love it. I've learned a lot about agriculture, and I truly appreciate what these guys all do on a daily basis. I just wanted to support my husband because he allows me to stay home and raise our girls, which is my dream job. And so for me, it just was, if this is something that you think is going to be beneficial for us, I'm all for it. And I love to learn. So we kind of just dove in head first and held hands the whole way.
Right. So coming from, did you have any ag background growing up at all before you met your husband, Brent?
I mean, a little bit. My father was a minister, so I lived in quite a few different places, from LA to Alliance, Nebraska, to Missouri, southern Missouri, northern Missouri. So I've been around it enough. I mean, I've been exposed to it. I've helped some friends of ours when I was little milk cows on their dairy farm and stuff. It just was never my gig. I wasn't really into getting dirty, but now I kind of have flipped and I actually love it. So
Right, that's awesome. I was just wondering, from going from one side to the other, if there were any misconceptions that you had initially thought that were just not true about ag at all once you got into it.
Oh, I guess nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
Mhm.
My dad really enjoyed farming and cows and hogs. He would help hog farmers and stuff from our congregation. So I did know he was from Tennessee, so I did know some things about it. So it wasn't like I was a big city girl who didn't know that there were different kinds of cows, but it's definitely different when you're living in it day to day, and seeing the backside of it and the inner workings of it all. It's definitely a different perspective. So.
Right. Well, before we went to break there to catch up on local news, you were talking about how you would separate the castings or the worm manure from the different boxes that they were in. And the first thing that was going through my mind, and when we began this conversation about 20 minutes ago or so, is where does the manure or the castings go? What's the main purpose for this item, and why do people want to use it? And what are they using it for, I guess?
Right. And so basically what it is like it's an organic fertilizer. The difference between fertilizer and worm castings is you're talking about microbes. So when a worm eats that peat moss and it goes through his digestive tract, he puts a lot of those good, I call them good bugs, into it. Those are the bugs that are in the ground now. And so we're talking about bugs versus NPK. So a lot of times people will ask me, what's the NPK of worm castings? I said it's really pretty low. I said it's apples and oranges. We're talking about living soil, putting the life back into the soil with the microbes, therefore allowing the plant to get a hold of nutrients that it couldn't before because the soil is dead. So this is kind of, that's what we use it for. And I've got companies that use it as an extract. I've got organic farmers that liquefy it and pump it on through their pivots. I've got farmers that mix it with chicken manure and spread it on dry. So it can be used a lot of different ways. Gardeners use it. They make a tea or a brew, they call it, and foliar feed it that way. Or you can put it right in the hole when you plant your plants. So it's a neat thing because you can put your hands in it and it doesn't smell like manure. It just smells like dirt. It kind of reminds you of coffee grounds if you know what those are like a little bit. And so, we can go out there and we can work in it, and our girls are out there and we don't have to worry about wearing gloves or, spills or anything. It's just all natural, and it just makes for it's more comfortable and enjoyable to work with, you know.
And Brent,
Very interesting.
is this something that's catching on in like larger farming, or is this just kind of for
Small at home
yeah,
gardens.
small like gardens and raising vegetables and stuff like that?
Right. Well, when I first started, that was kind of my goal, was to sell it to, you know, golf courses, gardening, get into all the stores with smaller sacks.
Right.
And that proved to be pretty challenging. I mean, number one, you had to fill all the sacks, and there wasn't a lot of information out there about it. And you know, you can try to educate people, but that takes a lot of work. Now, the people that know what worm castings are and use them can't get enough of them. And so we've kind of found our niche was the bulk sales, like I mentioned, the ton super sacks, to companies that incorporate in one of their products worm castings, or the larger scale organic farmers is kind of where we've kind of found that niche. But we've got one company in South Dakota. They make a product that you can throw in an extractor, excuse me, and make an extract. And our worm castings are one piece of their recipe, so to speak. And so that's kind of the main, you know, those are the main avenues. But gardeners really do like them. You know, they love them. With their worm castings and tomatoes are great partners. You know, there's no denying that. But for us, we kind of, you know, lean towards the larger scale stuff. It was just easier to package in super sacks and handle that way.
Right. Now, is this more expensive, less expensive than your typical fertilizer that your farmer is using currently?
Right. Well, you know, it kind of depends on what you want to do. You know, right now we sell ours for 25 cents a pound in bulk is what it is. And usually to dry spread, you know, guys are putting on anywhere between 200 and 300 pounds an acre. Now, obviously, if you extract that and get it in a liquid form, you can stretch that quite a ways that way. A lot of guys will mix it with like fish emulsion. We've got one of the probably top organic popcorn producers in the state of Nebraska uses our product with fish emulsion and some other liquid things. He'll mix in a tank and he'll put it on through his pivot and spray it on. So, yeah, I mean, as far as, you know, your other fertilizers you get from the co-op and that, those prices go up and down. This price has stayed pretty steady, but like, you know, everything else, prices are going up. So,
right.
I was wondering.
This is fascinating.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Bridgette. Jump in here.
No, I just wanted to say that this is fascinating. I had no idea that, you know, like you said, basically fertigation through the overhead lines. That makes great sense. Go ahead, Justin.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. The worms. What's the lifespan on a worm? How long are these things living? And then you also said that they lay eggs in the peat moss that you have to separate out. So I guess my follow-up question to that is, I was doing a little math here on the side based on the 270 and 23 buckets of them. I think those were the numbers you said. You had like 6,000 or 7,000 worms when you started. How many are you up to now?
What's the size of the herd?
Well, we've cut back. We got to a point where at our peak, we were producing 18 tons of worm castings a month. And at that particular point, we had 100 boxes that had 6,600 worms a piece in them. So that's pretty simple math on that. And so as far as the lifespan of a worm, when worms lay eggs and then we separate them out, worm eggs, at least African nightcrawler worm eggs, won't hatch unless they get wet. So they can stay in a bucket for 3-4 weeks and they just sit there. Now, if they get any moisture on them or they get wet, they'll hatch. So we hatch our own to keep our population up. And so we'll hatch them in a box of peat moss. And after about 7 to 10 days, those eggs will hatch. And if you look real close, you can see really, really tiny little worms in there. And then Mary Kay was about 12 to 16 weeks. About 12 to 16 weeks, then we will actually count the worms and separate them into their boxes. So we don't actually count 6,600 worms in every box. You'll count about 200 of them. you count about 200 worms, then you weigh them to see how much they weigh, and so you basically volume count like that.
Mm-hmm.
But and they'll stay in those boxes. Your best breeder worms, when they're at their peak production, are between 20 and probably 35 weeks. They get to
Wow.
week 35, 40, they start slowing down production wise. But we've had worms, over 100 weeks before. But after 100 weeks, they start thinning out. They don't eat quite as well. And so you just kind of got to turn them over that way. But we've had them over 100 weeks before.
That's when you turn them into fish bait.
Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. We've got neighbors that'll call.
Oh man.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
This has been wild. There's so many questions that I think we probably still have, but for those who are listening and say, I want to talk to them. I need a super sack for me, myself, my neighbors who garden. This could probably cover most people that you know who garden, but nonetheless, how would they reach out to you folks? Mary Kay, Brent, how can they reach you?
Oh, we've got a website. It's just brobergorganics.com. That's BROBERG organics.com. There you go. And it's got some information on there. And our phone numbers are on there, I believe. And just call us up. I've got my phone on me all the time, and we'll be glad to talk to you and answer any questions. I've been asked all kinds of stuff. So
Great.
And we will probably even ask you more. So
that's fine.
thank
That's
you.
fine.
Before they go, Bridgette.
Mm-hmm.
Here, hold on.
Oh, is
Oh,
that what
God,
you
he's
ran
gotta get
back
a
there
cap on.
for?
If
There
you
we
can,
go.
if you can
You
represent,
watch out. You're going to get yelled at.
we can. Now this is a $5 fine if I wear this at work because of all the Bison fans up here. So go Big Red.
That's all right. Hey, we like it. Good deal.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, folks, for joining us today. We really
Thanks for
appreciate you
having us.
taking
We
the
really
time to
appreciate
visit.
it. Yep, you
This
guys
is
do a
fun.
great job.
Thanks, guys.
Well, y'all have
You bet.
a fabulous rest of the day. And to those who are listening, don't go anywhere. There's weather and headlines to follow up on before 2:00. Be right back.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, and it's 1:55 in the afternoon. Clouds are thickening up, some rain on radar just out to the west of the valley. We'll be moving in here over the next few hours. By mid-late afternoon, we should start to see some rain. So if you have any outdoor things you want to stay dry doing, you better wrap that up here over the next couple of hours. Already raining out around the Jamestown area, Valley City, some light showers just to the south of Horace as well. So we'll be seeing these increase as we head throughout the rest of the afternoon up and down the valley. So getting a little wet, but nothing too bad, at least through this afternoon. So good news there. Good news there. Bridgette, we have time for a couple more ag topics, or?
Do you want me to say no?
Well, I mean, we could wrap up early.
I
That's
could.
fine. I mean, but
Okay. So remember not that long ago, I said, put down the chickens, especially if you're raising those backyard flocks. Let's not be dragging those around and into the house and so forth, because they're chickens. They poop and they walk through it. That's not tidy. Now, when it comes to this time of year, though, as the heat rises, they get warm. Chickens, like many other farmyard animals, can't sweat. So if you see your chickens kind of beak open, gasping for air, they're looking for some cooler weather. And one option to help cool them down is with water. They really need to drink cool water to bring down their body temp, and also fans with ventilation. So if you have a coop in the backyard, make sure that you're opening up the windows, moving some air through there, because still and stagnant air is not good for your chickens. Believe it or not, there is an electrolyte solution for chickens. It's like Pedialyte for birds. And you can use that in order to help regulate their body temperature, get them cooled off, and help them feel better. Keep them in some shade, feed them a little bit cooler times in the evenings so it's easier on the birds. And sometimes if you see them just lift their wings as they walk around a lot, they might be trying to get some cool air. Sort of like when you and I walk around and we're just waiting for a breeze to blow under our arms. They do the same.
I'll have to think about that next time I'm sweating. I'll walk around like that.
Oh yeah,
Like a chicken.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Or a scarecrow.
People on the live stream get so much more out of these shows with the things that we do over here.
Telling you.
So yes, keep your chickens cool, people.
I was unaware that they walked like that. That was a surprise to me.
Well, I'll see if I can get some photos for
You've
you
seen-
from somebody with chickens.
You've seen the chicken dance at weddings, right? It's just kind of the same
Well,
thing, right?
Yeah, I suppose that it
no.
is.
No?
I guess
No, Bridget says no.
I've not seen the chicken do the little scoot to the ground thing, but I'll go watch, see if I can find some neighbors' chickens that do it, and I'll send you
Get
guys
some
a video.
There you
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, why don't we touch on the pastures? This is also something that we were going to talk about today, and it's
Well, with
keeping
a lot of cattle on
its
pasture.
overall
And-
health on them.
Absolutely, because when you're going out to take a little look at how the pastures look right now, cows are pretty much belly deep in grass, but watch for lameness, because if somebody stepped in a hole, bent up a leg, and they're limping, they're not going to walk to water, which they need in the hotter parts of the day.
Mhm.
And then also look for signs of like pink eye on a white-faced animal, because that needs to be treated. That's an infection, just like we get as humans.
Very interesting. Thank you, Bridget. That's going to wrap it up for us today here on Weather and Ag in Focus. We're hopefully back tomorrow, 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Jay Thomas Show's coming up next. Enjoy the rest of your day.